Hey everyone, welcome back to ABA 411. I'm your behavior analyst, John, and it looks like I have to start over on talking about a few topics because my videos are not uploading as well as I thought they were. So I apologize if some of the videos you came to look for a while ago, if anybody's even watching at this point, the channel's still so young, but weren't there. That's because I thought they were uploaded. I got the message they were uploaded, and when I went back today to look at the video list, the playlist, there was only still I think like four, and I should have had like eight by now. So with this video, we're going to talk about consequences. Consequences are essentially, using ABA terms, the outcome to the behavior. So what is occurring immediately following the behavior? And sometimes it's not so immediate. And that's kind of a part of a skills thing too, where perhaps some of the things you perform or do will have a long-term outcome. Maybe some time will pass before you see the true outcome to the behavior. But for the most part, for many of our behaviors, the consequence is what is occurring just after the behavior happens. So what that is that it's either going to be essentially an outcome or a consequence that will be favorable to the individual exhibiting the behavior, or it will not be favorable and often be punishing. And we tend to go with what is favorable. And then when it becomes something that we like and is good for us, i.e., again, favorable, then we will attempt the behavior again in the future when the circumstances are right or are primed for the circumstances to then exhibit the same behavior and basically see if the same outcome is produced. And if we do come into contact with that desirable outcome, then the likelihood of us repeating the behavior or performing it again will increase again in the future will increase. So what I'm essentially getting at is a reinforcer, and those are termed as such in ABA as being reinforcers. You can think of them as rewards. And so the more we practice at the behavior and the more we're coming into contact with the desirable consequence, it is reinforcing, you could say. And so we tend to migrate or go with and utilize behaviors that are reinforcing, because hardly anybody wants to stick to a behavior that's punishing. And in that sense, the opposite of that, of a reinforcer, would be a consequence that would decrease the likelihood of the behavior occurring again in the future, because it essentially isn't working. So we got to try something else. And this is where behaviors clash, because perhaps you want a certain individual to perform a particular behavior or skill, and they want to perform a particular behavior and skill. Your desire is a particular outcome, their desire is a particular outcome, and then they clash. And so in the environment, or you could the environment then can turn into what I call an ecology or ecosystem of behaviors, where behaviors are sort of competing with each other for different outcomes. And sometimes you could say eventually one wins out, or that it's like a war of attrition, right? Do your work. No, I'm going to avoid that and escape it because I want free time. No, do your work. I would like you to produce for me some completed work. No, I want you to go away. Do your work. Right? So then typically one gives. And so some of the procedures we would work on using ABA practices and programming techniques is to kind of effectively neutralize another behavior too. So that's one way to put it. We're going to talk about in other videos process or the procedure of extinction, where a behavior is extinguished through withholding a reinforcer or the reinforcement of that behavior. We're going to talk about matching law. We're going to talk about how you can still fulfill the need to meet a certain function and so of a behavior by offering replacement behaviors, right? The proper skills and all kinds of things. So it's not just so all I have to do is just reward the behavior I want them to do, and then everything will be fine. It's not as simple as that. It would be great if it would be, but then the field of ABA would pretty much be not as in demand as it is now. And to that point, that's why we're here in this channel, is to give you some of those tools to spread the knowledge a little bit. It still might take some particular skill sets and training to be able to really effectively, especially in quick terms, affect behavior change. So that's another matter. You may still actually end it. And again, nothing in this channel is here to replace what could be deemed as befitting or appropriate to be receiving proper intensive daily therapy from a professional. We're not trying to replace any of that. There's still a place for that. But if you feel like you are somebody that would like to take control again of the environment and try to influence or compel individuals to perform a certain way, skills wise, behavior wise, then if you think that you are not powerless and are willing to learn so that you have better environmental management, then we can maybe be of a help here in this channel. So consequence being, again, what comes right after the behavior, and lots of times when that same consequence then is what's being produced as a result of the behavior being performed, then you're getting into functions of behavior. And you can learn more too about functions in the FBA assessment packet video, or actually that's another video I need to try to put back together, is the ABC narrative form on how to complete that. But just to recap that really quick, there's what I use is the SEAT acronym, SEAT, and that's S for sensory, usually automatic behavior, so that I pop my knuckles so that I get a sense of relief from stiff fingers, and then I also might like the way that feels, and that's therefore reinforcement that I've provided for myself. Nobody else is needed for that. So it's not always necessarily about sensory, but a lot of it is that when you're talking about automatically reinforced behaviors. And so S for sensory, E for escape, that includes avoid, so your fight, flight, freeze behaviors. A for acquire or to attain, so something you usually get. A for attention. I like to usually refer to just 3 primary functions, but A is for attention, which is something you do attain. So certain behaviors are all about getting social reinforcement, right? Attention. And T for tangible. So again, something to attain or acquire, but something that is tangible. You can hold it, you can have it, you can eat it. It has a form. So those are identifiable through, again, identifying particularly what's the repeating consequence following the behavior, so that then you can determine that behavior as a function. And it's always tied into, again, what happens right after the behavior. Often too, even antecedents, but we're going to talk about that in a separate video, have a lot to do with the consequence. So it's not this old-fashioned way of using the word consequence where we're talking about there's going to be consequences, buddy, when you do that, as in you're going to be punished. We break those up into the 2 categories, which are reinforcing or punishing. And punishing, again, would be one that would reduces the frequency or levels of behavior. hopefully, right, the way I've been taught is that if it stops a behavior, then it's a punisher, and a punisher is supposed to stop the behavior. So if you're trying to implement punishing strategies and the behavior isn't stopping, then effectively it's not effectively punishing the behavior. So you may actually be reinforcing the behavior as well. And we can talk more about that as the videos come along. But if you're, say, getting into an argument because you're trying to institute a punishment, then you're probably providing attention, right? So it's not so punishing because you caught yourself into a verbal dispute that is feeding the other person attention that they want. So more things to be wary about when you're talking about consequences. So I hope this helps provide a better understanding as to the term consequences, especially if you're working with the ABC narrative recorder or other tools to be able to collect data or implement a program for behavior change. I'm your behavior analyst, John, again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit like, share the video for those that might find the information useful. Subscribe if you'd like, so that as I put out the videos, you might be notified. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.